Greetings to all the learners. Welcome to CEC lectures. Dear learners, the topic that we will be analyzing is tourism and global milieu. In the lecture today, we will be having a look at the importance of tourism as an industry, as a very important sector for the global world. We'll be trying to understand the changing context of international relations and its consequences for tourism. As we take the learning forward, we shall try to understand the dynamics of tourism for global politics, trying to understand the dynamics of tourism as a soft power, trying to situate the role of tourism within globalization, how effective can tourism be for diplomacy, and above all, the idea of smart power and wherein tourism has lots of potential advantages to offer. We all know that when we try to understand international relations, the classical realist perspective in the work of Morgenthau, E.H. Carr talked about power, security, self-help. The neorealism, as a revision of the classical realism, attempted to make the study of international politics more scientific, more systematic. Liberalism, as a perspective in international relations, provided an alternative to realism, which was primarily realism, namely that it was about states, power and security. But in contrast to realism, liberalism focused on ideas of liberty, freedom, openness, cooperation for collective goods, interdependence, institutions, organizations, and other areas that were hitherto seen as low politics that realists did not acknowledge. To add to that, globalization led to rampant change in the world scenario. There was increase in trade, integration, interchange, amongst others. When we try to understand tourism, first of all, it's a very important industry which has important stakes for the domestic as well as for global realms. Tourism is also a very important vital force for developing mutual understanding, for nurturing connecting factors, for adding more to human interactions, for leading to more realms of economic development, for addition in the realms of international understanding, leading to peace and universal respect between and amongst nations and individuals. When we try to understand the dynamics of international relations, the power has a very important focus. Power has two faces, soft power and hard power. Joseph Nye, when we take the definition presented by Joseph Nye, defined power as the one's ability to affect the behavior of others to get what they want. And Nye explained to us that hard and soft power have to go smartly to use the relevant tools. Hard power signified by military aspects, soft power which has the power of attraction. Now in this balancing between hard power and soft power, smart power is defined as the ability to combine hard and soft power. And this also, when we try to have an analysis of how the focus of research then also reoriented in international relations with the rise of globalization, with the end of the Cold War. And this is why we find that research focus tend to move towards new areas like tourism and its associated areas like food, cuisines, culture, diversity, economic growth. One must refer to this very important article, Get Smart, Combining Hard and Soft Power by Joseph Nye, and the reference is foreignpolicy.com. So what you see here is that tourism gets an important stake in the study of global relations. Let's understand what do we really mean by tourism, and we take the definition presented by UNWTO.org. Tourism is a social, cultural, economic phenomenon which entails the movement of people to countries or places outside their usual environment for personal or business professional purposes. Amongst the many advantages that tourism can offer, while we are trying to understand the prospects of tourism in IR, the focus on countries' image building, the entire processes involved in destination marketing, enhancing the global perception of the country, adding more to countries' progress, presenting the idea of strong nation at the international, and above all, working out avenues to attract significant foreign investment, international tourists, and getting forward an idea that the country is indeed a great place to work and to live in. We'll take reference to a very important work presented by Donia Saberi and Cody Morris Paris and Belly Samarochi, and it talks about soft power and place branding in United Arab Emirates. They take examples from the tourism and film industry, and this important work comes in International Journal of Diplomacy and Economy Science Enterprise. So in 2018, this work tells us that using a case study of United Arab Emirates, that how countries' image building, the global perception, can play a very important role in its development, both at the domestic level as well as at the international level. Then it's also very essential to understand this relationship between soft power and tourism. And for this, we'll take a reference to a very important work by Kan Sang-oi, Poetics and Politics of Destination Branding. The work appears at the Scandinavian Journal of Hospitality and Tourism. Now, in this work, what we see here is that there are very important remarks made, that is understanding the need to have empathy for the destination country, how tourism can help soft power by glorifying images of the destination, which can also work in a manner to counter the negative images amongst the soft power tactics. Destination branding then becomes very effective. And above all, when nations work for big events like world symposiums, exposition, conferences, it also works as a mechanism to garner geopolitical support. And these are some very interesting findings that we get from the work of Professor Kan Sang-oi. And this is the work that we're referring is from Scandinavian Journal of Hospitality and Tourism. Dear learners, it's very essential that whenever we try to understand an industry, a process and its dynamics with reference to the global parameter, let's have an understanding about the kind of institutions that are involved to promote the industry, and of course factor in the right bandwagon between the global relations and domestic empowerment of the country with tourism. The United Nations World Tourism Organization is the institution that promotes tourism as a driver of economic growth, inclusive development, environment sustainability, and also offers leadership and support to the sector in advancing knowledge and tourism policies worldwide. When we look at the World Tourism Organization, it's essential to also have an insight into the work and the historical evolution of it. There was International Congress of Official Tourist Traffic Associations that was set up in 1925 in The Hague. In 1935, the International Union of Official Tourist Propaganda Organization emerges. Later, this was renamed as International Union of official travel organization, and this happens after the Second World War. In 1967, UNWTO members called for its transformation. The changes and wherein which it was changed and transformed into an intergovernmental body empowered to deal with worldwide basis with matters concerning tourists and cooperated with other international bodies also. In 1970, on 27th September, UNWTO Extraordinary General Assembly adopted the statutes of the World Tourism Organization in Mexico. UNWTO became the World Tourism Organization, and its first General Assembly was held in Madrid in 1975. So its secretariat is at Madrid, and the Spanish government came forward to provide all help and also provided initial infrastructure. In 1979, the World Tourism Day was created to be celebrated every year on 27th September. Since the inception of United Nations World Tourism Organization, it has been playing an important role, a pivotal role in the field of travel and tourism. What is essential to understand here is that when we look at the varied functions of UNWTO, they have a very important bearing on the conduct of global relations also. Namely, UNWTO is an umbrella organization promoting and developing tourism. It plays a catalytic role in promoting technological transfers and international cooperation. It tries to stimulate and develop public-private sector partnership. It attempts to encourage the implementation of the Global Code of Ethics for Tourism. It maximizes all possible economic, social, cultural impact of tourism. It's very essential at this hour to factor in another perspective, namely, when we are looking at tourism and the world growth. Let's present you some data from WTTC.org, a important study they pioneered in 2019 with the Oxford Economics. That is, when we look at growth and tourism. In 2019, the travel and tourism's direct, indirect, induced impact accounted for nearly, when we look at these figures, US $8.9 trillion contribution to world GDP. If we translate it to the percentage, it is 10.3% of global GDP. And these figures present a very important debate, a very important issue that we all must ponder over. Is tourism the best partner with the government to generate employment? And these figures are from WTTC.org. So what you find here is that in the global relations, tourism did not exist in isolation. There were collaborative efforts on part of several other international organizations looking at the great benefit the industry offers for global cooperation and also for national development of respective nations. Let's have a look at some of these collaborative efforts which also tell us about the rising horizons of tourism, not only for the national economy but also for the global economy. Let's have an example here that how WHO came up with preventive vaccinations, for in case of travel to countries. For example, when one travels to Africa, one has to get vaccinated. Likewise, the World Trade Organization, how it came up with legal regulations related to tourism in the scope of international trade, and namely things like elimination, reduction of customs duty. Then what we see here is that the idea of World Heritage Sites, we all know about it, that how the World Heritage Sites are various areas, objects inscribed on the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. the World Heritage List. All these sites are designated, when we go by the authentic information provided by UNESCO.org, that these are sites as having outstanding universal value under the Convention concerning the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage. The UNESCO's World Heritage and Sustainable Tourism Program is also a very important example how it attempts to strengthen the enabling environment by advocating policies and framework that support sustainable tourism as an important vehicle for managing cultural and natural heritage. So, dear learners, do read more about how this program is essential for developing strategies through broad stakeholder engagement, and above all how it is important for the future of world heritage. These are some important facts that we collected from whc.unesco.org. Then together with it, we see that there are other ancillary organizations and support that somewhere presents the idea that how important tourism is for factoring in the need to support world heritage, the need for countries to get together, the idea to usher in better advantages through what Joseph and I talked about, smart power. Another example that we can take here is that how International Council of Museums, which is a non-governmental organization maintaining formal relations with UNESCO and also having a consultative status with United Nations Economic and Social Council. Do visit the website of icom.museum. In order to understand that how today tourism, its reach is on a very broad level. An important understanding here that when we are looking at the changing paradigm of global relations and wherein which tourism has acquired an important stake, tourism as an industry is offering advantages not only for one country but its advantages are spreading across countries, and above all as a subject of study it has important in bearing for learners from the realm of economics, management, history, international relations, amongst others. Just to understand a critical perspective here with reference to role of tourism in the global milieu, we take reference to this work by Laurent Bourdieu, Maria Gavari-Barbas and Mike Robinson edited book, that is World Heritage Sites and Tourism, Global and Local Relations, Routledge 2016. Dear learners, you must refer to this book just to understand that how when we are talking about heritage, idea of heritage should not be just reduced to management of building and landscape. The idea of heritage has to be nurtured. It has to be managing the communities that live and work around them. And above all, when we are discussing tourism in the situating it at the contemporary framework, things like the need to make workout policies that are affordable, the need to bring the focus toward the local perspective, making it people oriented, working out the right global-local balance with due coordination of policies of foreign affairs, industrial policy, aviation perspective, amongst others, right balancing of government support with industry innovation. These are some of the related concerns which stakeholders, not only from the realm of tourism but also from the realm of global relations, must think upon. And as we deliberate further, we all know that how the World Tourism Day over these years has put forward something very important for the world to take forward. For example, in 2017, the theme of World Tourism Day was Sustainable Tourism, a tool for development. And this talks about a very important idea that how the role of tourism can be connected to the idea of sustainable development. In the year 2018, theme of World Tourism Day was Tourism and Cultural Protection. It's very essential to nurture the culture of a region. It's very essential to bring forward the right global perspective on the culture of a region, and tourism can play a very important role. The theme of the World Tourism Day in 2019 was again related to a very important idea, that is tourism and jobs, a better future for all. And the theme of the World Tourism Day for 27 September 2020 is tourism and rural development. So we see that how by focusing on sustainability, focusing on cultural protection, focusing on putting the industry in tandem with job creation, and above all the current focus of that of rural development, tourism as a national industry definitely has global linkages, and these linkages have to be factored in better by respective nation states to gain advantages both at the global level as well as for respective national economies. We present to you the statement of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the statement made, and we take reference from the report that came forward in BW Hotelier businessworld.in. The statement reads, and we say, and quote, "For rural communities, indigenous peoples, and many other historically marginalized population, tourism has been a vehicle for integration, empowerment, and generating income." Close quotes. So, dear learners, what this statement tells us that how, when we are looking at global relations and the idea that and the challenges that the global relations are facing, namely whether to have globalization or not to have globalization, how to blend economics and health together. These issues also have to be dealt at the national level, and tourism can work out avenues wherein the rural development perspective, the marginalized population, because the idea of global governance has to be reformed, and a better idea of integration perspective can come by focusing on the marginalized population, by working on empowerment of the rural communities, and thereby ushering in economic progress by generating income. Another statement that comes forward from Zora Poloskishvili, Secretary General, United Nations World Tourism Organization, and we read, quotes, "All around the world, tourism empowers rural communities, providing jobs and opportunity, most notably for women and the youth. Tourism also enables rural communities to hold on to their unique cultural heritage and tradition, and this sector is vital for safeguarding habitat and endangered species." This World Tourism Day is a chance to recognize the role tourism plays outside of major cities and its ability to build a better future for all. So therefore, dear learners, look, these statements tell us that how important tourism is for factoring in global governance on a cooperative plane, for leading to better gains for nations using smart power for them. An important perspective for when we are trying to look at how can one or how can nations come forward to strengthen the tourism industry. And for this we take reference to the Indian Independence Day speech wherein the Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji presented a very important perspective, that is visiting at least 15 tourist destinations across India before 2022, and thereby when we mark that 2022 is a very important year because the nation shall mark 75 years of freedom. So therefore, how domestic tourism needs to be strengthened, and this domestic strengthening of tourism shall also lead to better gains, shall also motivate the world to come forward and visit these places. An important idea, that is how there should be industry linkages to the idea of smart power. An example here that we take from Dekho Apna Desh. This is an important scheme that is being run by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, looking at the advantages domestic tourism offers, and theorists of global affairs, economic relations, international management need to look in that how the gains of domestic tourism can be used for factoring in better image, perspective, branding, geopolitical standing of the country at global realms also. So therefore, dear learners, tourism is one of the most vibrant industry sectors. There is diversity, we all know, in terms of food, culture, geography, heritage, new innovation, and by focusing on right policies, right coordination, everyone gets interested in exploring the country. This also aids in many other sectors, namely the organized and the unorganized, and soft power. That is about increasing the understanding of a destination. It's very essential that how we get through things through the power of attraction, what Joseph Nye talked about. And the world economy of 21st century is witnessing globalization of activity, is witnessing great rise of digitalization, and all these aspects have to be catered in with the right blend of local and the global, with due motivation and support at the local level, and thereby letting the nation reach new heights in the global realms. So dear learners, we hope that you all gain significant insight on the role of tourism and the increasing stakes for tourism in global relations. Thank you for being with us for the lecture.